I am obsessed with films that can make you experience moments at the same time and in the same way that the characters experience them. When a director, a cinematographer, an editor, and a sound designer can come together to pull you into a film. To me, it's moments like the hallway seduction that execute that perfectly. I think you can watch Dune Part 2 and just remember major scenes like the worm ride, the eclipse, or Paul's arrival in the South. But there are so many minor scenes that have this amazing ability to suck you in. During the 2 minutes that Fade speaks with Lady Fenring, we go from the massive hallway he was walking in to the guest wing, which he apparently had never seen before.
Something wrong?
I don't recognize this place.
So how did the editor, cinematographer, and sound designers trick us into experiencing that same confusion that Fade felt? Starting with the sound design, I think there are two noticeable things they did in the scene to sort of lull you into Lady Fenring's spell. The way that she uses the voice is different than any other Bene Gesserit we have heard so far, so when she does start to use her voice, it sort of sneaks up on you. Before you realize it, the sound of her voice has completely changed and the fireworks outside seem louder and more disorienting.
May I ask, what are you doing here? You're not taking part in your own celebrations.
This incredible combination of Fenring's seductive and all-encompassing voice mixed with the muffled but loud fireworks outside make you forget about everything except for her. In an exclusive conversation I had with Joe Walker, the editor of Dune, I learned some extra details that made this scene even more immersive, especially in a theater. Joe explained that typically in a dreamlike scene like this, the character's voice would become swallowed in a spacious and swirling reverb. But in this scene, they did quite the opposite. Instead, they made Fenring's voice cleaner with a tight delay and chorus effect, while simultaneously making all the other sound effects drown in reverb. At the same time, they're also moving her voice from the center speaker to the surrounding speakers. So when she is using the voice, the audience in the theater is in the voice instead of it coming at them like a normal conversation. While all of this is happening with the sound design, the cinematography is equally disorienting. As the conversation progresses and she gets deeper into using the voice, the camera gets closer and closer to the characters until their faces take up the screen. And on these extreme close-ups of Fenring, the camera is going in and out of focus on her face, which sort of tricks your eyes into not knowing where to look. Also, as Joe pointed out to me in our conversation, in this close-up shot, Leia's mouth isn't moving at all, but we still hear her voice. This is a great visual way of communicating that we are sort of outside of time during this sequence. Everything else disappears except Léa Seydoux, Austin Butler, and this extremely cool wobbling effect behind him. Once Fade is completely under her spell, his eyes close and the hallway behind him sort of starts to wobble like water. It reminds me a lot of that moment in Oppenheimer when he is giving his auditorium speech and the background behind him starts to shake. It's an incredible way of showing that a character is extremely disoriented or under a lot of stress. I think both of these sonic and cinematic elements combine perfectly with Joe Walker's rhythmic editing to perfectly engulf you in the scene. From the moment that Fade wakes up in the guest wing, we are introduced to a rhythmic crash and ticker sound that beat at 96 beats per minute. And once we get inside of her room, Lady Fenring whispers, at the exact same rhythm. Joe has a background in musical compositions, so I'm sure it was just so much fun to put this scene together and sort of make this musical and seductive moment that just pulls you in. I think that's an editor's dream. After all of this has happened, you are just so swallowed in this seductive scene that you are just as surprised as Fade when the pain box is revealed. That is the power of a Bene Gesserit woman. Despite all of Fade's training, he never stood a chance. The Bene Gesserit used one of his levers, desire, to control him. So this is sort of just a reminder to go back and watch Dune Part 2 again, and don't just be waiting for the worm ride or the eclipse scene or Paul's speech in the South, but to just love and look for all of the tiny details in every scene, because there's so much love and craft poured into each of them. The more times you watch it, the more you get out of it and the more you learn about it. So go watch Dune Part 2 again right now. If you haven't already, I would love if you would subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm gonna be putting out a ton of Dune and Denis Villeneuve related content in the coming months because I have a lot of love for them, and it's almost therapeutic for me to make these and get my thoughts out on paper and on video. So make sure you subscribe because that'll pay my bills.